I was standing on freezing cold asphalt in my bathrobe at 6:00 a.m. watching a tow truck driver hook chains to my Jeep while the HOA president watched with a smirk. She thought she was finally getting rid of me. She didn't realize she was about to lose everything. The driver told me it was a work order for an unauthorized vehicle. I told him it was my own driveway. He didn't care. He handed me a neon orange sticker and demanded $150 just to unhook it. That's when I saw her, Vanessa Edwards, the HOA president who treated our neighborhood like her personal kingdom. Vanessa hated my '98 Wrangler. She said it ruined the aesthetic of Pinewood Trails. But Vanessa made one massive $1 million mistake. She never checked the master deed for the land my house sat on. By the time I marched up to her McMansion, I wasn't just angry. I was the only person in the neighborhood who knew that the HOA didn't actually own the street they were trying to police. Here is how I dismantled an entire homeowners association with one piece of paper. She answered the door holding a green smoothie yoga mat visible behind her in the foyer. Mr. Gallagher, you received multiple notices about your vehicle. It doesn't meet our community standards. Show me where in the covenants it says I can't park a registered, insured vehicle in my own driveway. She smiled that patronizing smile I'd come to recognize. Section 7.3 No commercial vehicles, recreational vehicles, or vehicles in disrepair visible from the street. My Jeep's not commercial or recreational and it runs fine. It's an eyesore. We have standards here. I held up my phone, showed her the photo I'd taken 20 minutes earlier. Your husband's F-150 has a dented tailgate and a cracked bumper. That's also visible from the street. Should I call a tow truck for him? Her smile vanished. That's completely different. How? Because you're on the HOA board and I'm not? She stepped closer, voice dropping. You need to understand how things work here, Mr. Gallagher. This community has rules. People who don't follow them don't last long. That sounded like a threat. Take it however you want. She closed the door in my face. Let me back up 6 months. My name's Connor Gallagher, 38, divorced, no kids, software developer working remote. I'd bought the house in Pinewood Trails in March after my marriage imploded. Needed a fresh start, found a decent 3-bedroom ranch listed below market. The realtor mentioned it was in an HOA but made it sound casual, just basic upkeep stuff. I signed the papers without reading the covenants closely. First mistake. The neighborhood was nice enough, built in the early 2000s, about 200 homes, community pool, playground, walking trails. Dues were $85 monthly, seemed reasonable. I moved in, set up my home office, started rebuilding my life. Didn't socialize much, just nodded to neighbors, kept my lawn mowed, followed the rules as far as I knew. Then the notices started. First one came in May, stuck to my front door with packing tape. Violation, lawn mowed in non-approved pattern. I'd mowed side to side instead of the required diagonal pattern. I didn't even know there was a required pattern. Threw it away, figured it was a joke. Second notice, mailbox numbers wrong font. I'd replaced my house numbers with simple black numbers from Home Depot. Apparently they were supposed to be brushed nickel in a specific serif font available only through an approved vendor at 3 times the price. Third notice, trash cans visible from street 15 minutes past collection time. I worked from home, heard the truck, brought the cans in during my lunch break. Apparently that wasn't fast enough. Each notice came with a $25 fine. I ignored them, thought they'd go away. They didn't. By August, I had $400 in accumulated fines. That's when I got the certified letter, pay immediately or face legal action and potential lien on your property. I called the HOA management company, got transferred 4 times, finally reached someone named Brenda who sounded bored and overworked. These fines are ridiculous. I didn't even know half these rules existed. Ignorance isn't an excuse. The covenants were provided at closing. I was going through a divorce. I didn't read 47 pages of HOA rules. That's your problem, not ours. Pay the fines or we'll proceed with collections. I paid, bitter about it, but I paid. Started reading the covenants cover to cover that night. Discovered rules I'd never imagined existed. No flags except American flag in specified size. No basketball hoops visible from street. No parking on street overnight. No exterior modifications without architectural review board approval. Processing time 45 to 60 days. No vegetable gardens in front yards. No political signs except 30 days before election. No holiday decorations up more than 30 days before or 7 days after holiday. No pets over 35 pounds. No fence height over 4 feet. No exterior paint colors outside approved palette of 12 shades. It went on, page after page of restrictions that turned homeownership into something between renting and prison. September brought the Jeep situation. I'd bought it in college, kept it running through 2 decades, 280,000 miles of memories. It was reliable, paid off mine, but Vanessa decided it lowered property values. First notice, vehicle in disrepair, remove within 7 days. I ignored it. The Jeep wasn't in disrepair, just old. Second notice, final warning, remove or face towing at owner's expense. I called the management company again. My vehicle is registered and insured. There's no legal basis for removal. Ma'am, the covenants give the HOA broad discretion regarding aesthetic standards. Your Jeep has visible rust and a torn soft top. That constitutes disrepair. So I'm supposed to buy a new car to make the HOA happy? We recommend compliance to avoid further action. That's when they sent the tow truck. After Vanessa's threat on her doorstep, I started digging. Spent that whole Tuesday researching HOA law in North Carolina, reading forums, watching YouTube videos about HOA disputes. Discovered a whole world of nightmare stories. People losing homes over $200 in fines, foreclosures over paint colors, liens, lawsuits, harassment campaigns. One thing kept coming up in my research: read your deed, know your property rights, verify the HOA's legal standing. I pulled out my closing documents that night, actually read everything this time. Standard warranty deed, property description, title, insurance, and then something weird in the legal description. A meets and bounds survey with a notation I'd glossed over before. Parcel includes 2.4 acres identified as Lot 47 and Lot 48, Pinewood Trails subdivision, plus 18.6 acres identified as Common Area Reserve. Deed restrictions apply per Declaration of Covenants, Recorded Book 3847, page 229. Common Area Reserve, 18.6 acres. I pulled up the plat map online, traced the property lines. My lot was standard, about half an acre. But attached to my deed was this massive chunk of land, the entire common area of Pinewood Trails. The pool, clubhouse, playground, walking trails, detention ponds, all of it. I stared at the screen for 10 minutes, not believing what I was seeing. Checked the county records 3 times, same result. According to the recorded deed, I didn't just own my house. I owned the HOA's common property. Called my real estate attorney Wednesday morning, guy named Paul Hendricks who'd handled my closing. Paul, I need you to look at something. Met him at his office that afternoon, brought all my documents. He spread them across his conference table, studied the deed, pulled up county records on his computer, made notes for 20 minutes without speaking. Finally, he leaned back. Well, this is unusual. Unusual how? You own the common areas, all of them. The developer was supposed to transfer them to the HOA corporation when the subdivision sold out. Looks like they never did. Just attached the acreage to the last unsold lot, which happened to be yours. Why would they do that? Laziness, bankruptcy, incompetence, take your pick. Developers go under all the time, leave messes behind. But this is recorded and legal, he nodded. Your deed is clear. You personally own 18.6 acres of what everyone thinks is HOA common property. The HOA has no actual ownership interest. They've been operating under the assumption they own it, but they don't. What does that mean practically? It means the HOA has been maintaining, insuring, and controlling property they don't own. You could theoretically revoke their access, charge them rent, sell it, develop it, whatever you want. It's yours. My head spun. So when Vanessa threatened to tow my Jeep, she was threatening the guy who actually owns the pool she swims in? Paul smiled. Essentially, yes. What should I do? That's up to you. You could negotiate with the HOA, offer to deed the property to them for consideration. You could demand they stop harassing you. You could dissolve the whole arrangement, or you could do nothing and let them keep operating as usual. How much leverage do I have? Absolute. Without access to common areas, the HOA is worthless. Property values would collapse. Homeowners would revolt. The board would be personally liable for failing to secure proper ownership. You hold all the cards. I sat there processing. 8 months of petty violations, $400 in fines, threats, a tow truck at dawn, Vanessa's smug face. How much would it cost to fight them if they sued me? Paul shrugged. They can't sue you for owning property that's legally yours. If they try, we'll counterclaim for their unauthorized use of your land for the past 15 years. They'd owe you back rent, potentially hundreds of thousands. I want to do this right. No revenge, just fair. Let's send them a letter, inform them of the ownership situation, offer to negotiate, see how they respond. We drafted the letter that afternoon. Professional, factual, citing deed book and page numbers, offering to meet and discuss resolution. Sent it certified mail to the HOA board and management company. Then I waited. The letter arrived Friday. Vanessa called me Saturday morning at 7:00 a.m., voice shaking with rage. What kind of scam are you trying to pull? No scam, just facts. Check the county records yourself. You don't own anything. This is fraud. Actually, I own 18.6 acres your HOA has been using without permission for 15 years. That's technically trespassing. You're insane. We'll sue you into the ground. Talk to your attorney first. I think you'll find I'm right. She hung up. I made coffee, sat on my back deck, watched the sunrise, felt calm for the first time in months. By Monday, the HOA had lawyered up. Their attorney, some guy named Marcus Webb from a firm downtown, called Paul. They want to meet, Paul told me. Wednesday, 2:00 p.m., their attorney's office. Bring your documents. We showed up prepared. Paul had copies of everything: deed, plat map, title, insurance, county records, historical transfer documents showing the developer's bankruptcy in 2008 and the messy liquidation that followed. Marcus Webb was mid-50s, expensive suit, conference room with a view. Vanessa sat next to him, 2 other board members flanking her, guy named Derek Moss, treasurer, and a woman named Patricia Young, secretary. Let's get to the point. Marcus started. You're claiming ownership of HOA common property based on a deed technicality, not a technicality. Paul slid documents across the table. Legal ownership properly recorded, never transferred to the HOA. Your client has been operating on property they don't own. This is clearly a mistake. The developer intended to transfer it. Intent doesn't matter, recorded deeds matter. Your client could have discovered this anytime in 15 years. They didn't, that's not my client's problem. Vanessa leaned forward. What do you want, money? Is this some kind of shakedown? I spoke for the first time. I want you to stop harassing me. No more violation notices over nonsense. No more fines, no more threats. And I want reimbursement for the $400 I've paid in bogus penalties. That's it? Derek asked, surprised. That's it. I'll deed the common property to the HOA for $1, clean transfer, no strings. You leave me alone, let me live in my house in peace. Vanessa's face flushed. You've put us through hell over this and now you want us to just let you do whatever you want? I put you through hell. I kept my voice level. You tried to tow my car at 6:00 a.m. for being old. You fined me for mowing my lawn wrong. You've harassed me for 8 months over petty nonsense because you think you're queen of the neighborhood. Paul touched my arm, subtle warning to stay calm. My client is offering a very generous resolution. He'll transfer valuable property for a nominal sum in exchange for being left alone. I suggest you take it. Marcus looked at Vanessa. We need to discuss privately. They stepped out. Paul and I waited in the conference room for 20 minutes. I could hear raised voices through the door, Vanessa's mostly. They came back. Vanessa looked like she'd swallowed glass. We accept your terms with conditions. What conditions? No exterior modifications without approval. No commercial vehicles. No, I said, you don't get conditions. I'm offering you a gift. You take it on my terms or I keep the property and start charging you rent. How much rent? Paul had calculated this. Fair market value for 18.6 acres of recreational property, $4,000 monthly. Times 15 years of unauthorized use, $720,000 in back rent. I'll waive that if you accept my offer today. Marcus whispered urgently to Vanessa. She closed her eyes, nodded once. We accept. I'll have the deed prepared, Paul said. Sign a mutual release. My client gets his $400 refund. No further violations unless they're legitimate county code issues. And one more thing, I added. I wanted in writing that the HOA covenants don't apply to my property for aesthetic issues. I'll maintain basic standards, no junk cars, no health hazards, but no more nonsense about lawn patterns or mailbox fonts. That's not. Vanessa started. Marcus cut her off. Agreed. We signed paperwork the following week. I got my $400 back. The HOA got their common property properly deeded this time. I got a recorded exemption from aesthetic covenants. Vanessa avoided eye contact the entire signing. Afterward, Paul and I grabbed lunch at a diner near his office. You could have taken them for a lot more, he said. I know, but I don't want war. I just want peace. You got it. And you taught them a lesson about bullying people. We'll see if it sticks. It stuck for about a month. Then Vanessa resigned as HOA president, moved to a different neighborhood. Derek Moss took over, much more reasonable guy. He knocked on my door in January with a six-pack of beer. Wanted to apologize for how I'd been treated, said half the board hadn't known how bad Vanessa's harassment had gotten. We actually became friends. He and his wife invited me to neighborhood cookouts. I started socializing more, met people, realized most of them were decent folks who'd been as frustrated with Vanessa's petty tyranny as I was. The HOA changed under Derek's leadership. They revised the covenants, eliminated the most absurd rules, focused on actual community improvement instead of aesthetic fascism. Turns out when you're not spending all your energy on enforcement, you can actually build community. I still have my Jeep, still park it in my driveway. Nobody complains anymore. Added another 40,000 miles to it this year. Riley, Derek's daughter, asked if she could take pictures of it for a school project about classic vehicles. Made me smile. One Saturday in March, exactly a year after I'd moved in, I was washing the Jeep in my driveway when a moving truck pulled up to Vanessa's old house. New family moving in, young couple with a toddler. I walked over, introduced myself, welcomed them to the neighborhood. The husband noticed my Jeep. Man, I love those old Wranglers. Had one in high school. This one's got history. I patted the hood. Almost got towed once because the old HOA president didn't like how it looked. He laughed. HOAs, right? Bunch of petty tyrants with clipboards. Not anymore. New president's actually reasonable. We're working on making this a real community instead of a dictatorship. His wife smiled. That's good to hear. We were worried after reading all the covenants. Don't worry about most of that stuff. It's being revised. Just be a good neighbor. Keep your place decent. You'll be fine. That afternoon, Derek called an informal gathering at the clubhouse. Just a casual meet and greet for the new family. About 30 people showed up, brought food, kids played in the pool. I stood on the deck watching, drinking a beer, thinking about how different things were from a year ago. Derek joined me. You know, you could have destroyed this place. Could have kept the property, sold it to a developer, really stuck it to us, thought about it. But that would have hurt innocent people who had nothing to do with Vanessa's garbage. You did the right thing. Thanks, he paused. Can I ask you something? How'd you stay so calm through all of it? When she was harassing you, threatening you, I would have lost my mind. I thought about my divorce, about losing half of everything I'd built, about starting over at 38. Vanessa's petty violations seem small compared to that. Plus, I learned something important. What's that? Bullies only have the power you give them. Once I realized I held the cards, she couldn't touch me, just had to wait for the right moment to play them. He raised his beer. To playing your cards right, we clinked bottles. That night I sat on my back deck, cool spring air, stars visible above the tree line. My phone buzzed, email from Paul. Subject line, thought you'd want to see this. Attached article from a local real estate blog. Vanessa Edwards' real estate license suspended for 6 months following ethics violations. Multiple complaints about steering clients, misrepresenting property values, conflicts of interest involving HOA position. Investigation ongoing. I read it twice, felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, just tired relief that she couldn't do to someone else what she'd tried to do to me. Deleted the email, went inside. 2 years later, I'm still here. Pinewood Trails is actually a nice place to live now. The HOA functions like it should, handling actual maintenance and community needs without the petty tyranny. Property values went up after word spread about the covenant revisions. People want to live in communities that treat them like adults, not subjects. I eventually started dating someone from the neighborhood, teacher named Michelle, who lives 4 streets over. She'd been one of Vanessa's targets too, got fined once for having the wrong color mailbox flag. We bonded over war stories, built something real from there. My Jeep finally died last month, transmission gave out at 320,000 miles. I could have fixed it, but it felt like time. Sold it to a kid from the high school who wants to restore it, gave him a good price. Bought a newer truck, nothing fancy but reliable, still park it in my driveway, nobody cares. Sometimes I think about that November morning, tow truck in my driveway, Vanessa smirking from down the street, how close I came to just giving up and moving. Glad I didn't. Glad I fought back the smart way with paperwork and patience instead of anger. If you're dealing with an HOA nightmare, here's what I learned. Read everything, know your rights, document everything, stay calm, find leverage, use it wisely. Most importantly, remember that HOAs are just corporations run by neighbors. They're not governments, not untouchable, just people with clipboards who only have power if you let them. What's your HOA horror story? Do you think that HOAs should be legal? Drop it in the comments. And if you're currently fighting one, subscribe.